Mission Christian Radio presents The Seventh Son, the story of King David of Israel. Written for radio in 13 episodes by Colm Flanagan. Episode 7 is entitled The Palace and the Tent.
With the civil war against the last of Saul's sons now over, David seemed secure in his capital, Jerusalem. Now, surely he would be free to enjoy some of the fruits of all the years of fighting which had gone on. At least, that's what I thought. But, being David, he wasn't going to just sit down and enjoy a life of leisure. It was in the courtyard of his palace in Jerusalem one day that he confided something to me that had been bothering him for a long time.
It all seems a far cry from Bethlehem, doesn't it, brother? I wonder how many people have perished since the day Samuel anointed me.
Too many. But that's how it is, and you're not to blame for all the killings.
Oh, meaning I'm to blame for some? Is that what you mean? Don't worry, I'm not angry. The one thing I can rely on you for is the truth, however uncomfortable it may be. But there's one thing that particularly bothers me.
Philistine?
No, not them. I'm sure our unfriendly neighbours haven't gone away, you know. They'll be back. But I can deal with them.
Well, what then?
Look around you, brother. What do you see? This palace. It's beautiful, isn't it?
Yes, as befits the capital of a new and great kingdom. But what's your point, David?
The Ark.
The Ark of the Covenant?
It's not here, where it should be, in my capital city, with a temple fit for it to stay in.
You're thinking of bringing the Ark to Jerusalem?
Yes, indeed. What do you think?
I haven't thought anything, to be honest. I wonder if it's the right thing to do.
Well, why wouldn't it be?
Well, the Ark has been our symbol of God's presence with all of us. It was kept in the tabernacle originally as our people moved from place to place. So maybe the fact that it moved with us and had no single fixed home was God's way of telling us that God isn't just present in one place, but he is wherever his people are.
Perhaps. But now we're one kingdom, and all men's eyes turn towards Jerusalem. Surely we should have a physical indication here that God is with us.
Well, you may be right, David, though there is a practical difficulty. The Ark is in Abinadab's house in Kiriath Jearim. The Philistines still claim jurisdiction there.
Yes, I was thinking about that. I'll take enough people from all Israel with me. That'll help the Philistines decide to leave us strictly alone. I don't think they want another confrontation with me just now.
You've thought this all through, haven't you?
Yep, I have. And it isn't just a whim either. I intend to do this with the Lord's help.
And so David made a proclamation.
My people, while Saul was king, the sacred chest of the Ark was ignored. But now it's time to bring it to Jerusalem. We will invite everyone in Israel to come here, including the priests and the Levites in the surrounding lands. But we will do these things only if you agree to it, and if the Lord our God wants us to.
Everyone did agree. It seemed that David's desire struck a chord with many of the people as well as the priests. So David led them to Kiriath Jearim. As he predicted, the Philistines stayed away. Abinadab came to the door of his house to greet his king.
Your Majesty, you are welcome to my home.
I thank you for your welcome, Abinadab. You know why we have come.
Indeed I do. Everything is prepared. We have a suitable cart waiting. It's a new one. No one has ever used it before.
Excellent. And who will drive it?
I have 2 sons, Uzzah and Ahio. If your Majesty pleases, Uzzah will drive and Ahio will walk ahead of it.
Do they understand how sacred it is, that they must not touch it?
Like myself, they are Levites. They've been brought up to understand what the Ark means. They will treat it with proper respect.
So the journey began. David travelled with the cart while the others provided an escort for it. All seemed well. But if David could have heard one conversation that night, he might not have felt so happy.
Well, Uzzah, that's one day over. It's slow going, though.
Yes, indeed, Ahio. I don't really see the point, though. I mean, It's not as though the ark is going to fall off or anything. If you ask me, we should have a few good rope lashings on it anyway. Then we'd make better speed.
You know as well as I do that we can't do that. It's sacred. It would be like trying to tie up God. And anyway, you know what Father said. He should know.
I don't see why David needs to move it in the first place, Ahio. Our folk have looked after it well. I think King David just wants more glory for his new capital city.
That's silly talk, Uzzah. Come on. Let's go to sleep. We've an early start.
Yeah, well, we'll need it if we're going to get any distance tomorrow. The speed we go.
The next morning, everyone set off as before, but Uzzah's impatience began to affect his driving. They were passing a threshing floor belonging to a farmer named Chidon when...
Steady on, Uzzah. This bit's a bit tricky.
Oh, it doesn't look too bad, Ahio. We've been over this road lots of times before, with bigger loads than this. Get on there. Pull! Let's go!
Be careful, Uzzah. Look out, Uzzah. The ark. It's slipping.
Don't fuss so much, Ahio. I'll sort it. No problem.
No, Uzzah. Don't touch it. Slow the cart down.
Don't be stupid, Ahio. I've got to stop it shifting further.
Uzzah touched the ark. It stopped moving.
There. It's okay now.
Uzzah, what's wrong?
The cart tipped over. Uzzah sat stiffly in the driver's seat. He didn't move.
Uzzah, stop. You'll have it over.
Uzzah toppled off the cart as it fell. He was dead before he hit the ground. David and the rest of us rushed over.
What happened?
He's dead. My brother is dead. He put his hand out and touched the ark to stop it slipping. Then he clutched his throat and dropped the reins. He's dead. He gave a cry and then he just fell off the cart.
He's dead. David, look!
I warned him, but he wouldn't listen. The Lord must have been angry with him. Father warned us. How am I going to tell him?
David, what should we do now? David?
What have we done?
Your Majesty, it wasn't your fault that it happened. My brother wouldn't listen to me.
No, it is my fault. This is what the Lord thinks of my plans to move the ark. I thought I was doing his will, but obviously not. Right, Ahio, you get another cart from somewhere and get the ark onto it. Now use the lifting handles. Don't let anybody touch it with their bare hands. Then get it off the road. We're going no further today. Let's get somewhere where we can leave this thing. Clearly God is against us bringing it to Jerusalem.
By that evening, the ark, resting on the new cart, had been left at the house of a man called Obed-Edom. David and the rest of us returned to Jerusalem. I knew that behind his apparent anger, David was frightened. What if the Lord had abandoned him? We knew only too well what that could mean. After all, we'd seen it with Saul. 3 months passed, and David received regular news of Obed-Edom and his family.
So it seems that things are going well for him, David.
Yes. Right then, it's time to bring the ark to Jerusalem.
You're sure this time?
I am. Uzzah's death was his own fault. He'd been warned not to handle the ark. I was worried in case it was a sign of the Lord's displeasure on all of us. Clearly it wasn't. We'll set out in the morning.
So the ark came into the city. David was so pleased and relieved that he danced along with the people celebrating. Oh, it was a happy occasion. But not everyone was as pleased as he was. Michal, the woman he'd left when Saul was trying to kill him, watched the scene from her window above the street.
So there he is, my dear husband. You can make the shepherd boy a king, but you can't stop him being still a shepherd boy at heart. Dancing with servant girls. Delightful. How dignified.
That evening, David visited Michal.
Ah, the King of Judah and Israel returns triumphant.
Yes, we've brought the ark of the Lord back to where it belongs, Michal. Isn't that just great?
Oh, indeed. And I've seen you back where you belong too, David.
What? What do you mean, Michal?
Cavorting around half naked with servant girls and other riffraff? Do you really think that's appropriate for a king? You look like some dirty old man with your cloak hanging half off your backside as you leapt about.
But I thought you'd be happy for me.
Happy? Pleased? At an exhibition like that? Why should I be happy for you? Why should I even care what you do? I loved you once, David. I put my life on the line for you. Remember? And how did I get repaid? With nothing. You left, and I heard nothing. No word from you. I knew you'd other women, foreigners, had children by them. You didn't come back. And you know what? I got over you. I grew to love the man my father married me to after you left. But then you became king. You wanted me back. Your men brought me back here. Why, David? You never come near me.
Well, if you behave like you're doing now, Michal, are you surprised? Can't you hear yourself? You sound like one of those fishwives in the market. I don't need this. I doubt if you ever really cared about me.
That is not true.
Well, you know what? Doesn't matter anyway, Michal. You're just a sad, frustrated woman. Maybe a baby would help you. But then you've never managed to give anyone a child. Not me, not anyone else.
Oh, you're cruel, heartless. How could you say that?
Now, grow up, Michal. I came here tonight hoping that we might maybe, share something together. But I can see that you despise me. So, I'll do what you want. I'll leave for good. Goodbye.
Oh, David. How can you do this to me? I really did love you.
David never saw Michal again, and she never did have any children. In his fine new palace, David felt he had one more thing to do to complete his capital city. There was a prophet called Nathan whose advice he valued.
And so, Nathan, I thought, here I am, living in such a beautiful palace, while the Ark of the Lord is still residing in a tent. I'd like to build a proper temple for it. What do you think?
It's a very worthy desire, Your Majesty, but I believe it would not be right for you to do it.
No? Why not?
The Lord spoke to me last night. He said to give you this message. David, you are my servant, so listen carefully. Why should you build me a temple? I didn't live in a temple when I brought my people out of Egypt, and I don't live in one now. But now I promise that you and your descendants will be kings. I will choose one of your sons to be king when you reach the end of your life. I'll make him a strong ruler, and no one will be able to take his kingdom away from him. He will be the one to build the temple for me. I'm sorry, David. Those are the words of the Lord.
It was a terrible blow for David. I didn't see him for days. He later told me he'd spent hours in prayer in the tent where the ark was, a tent in which it would stay for the rest of his life. But he found peace with himself and with the Lord. From then on, though he knew he would not build the temple, he began collecting the best materials for it and making sure there were skilled craftsmen available for when the time came. That time was still some years off, and David's kingship was to enter many dark times after the first glorious years. But that was for the future. And thanks be to God that none of us knows what the future brings. His grace is sufficient for our present days.
In episode 7 of The Seventh Son, the narrator and seventh son was played by John Lander, and other parts were played by members of the Commission Radio drama team. The play was produced in Belfast at Commission Studios by Colm Flanagan. Episode 8 is entitled The Beautiful Wife, Part 1.